This is Flavia Julia Helena. She was an ordinary Roman citizen of Greek descent, born in the eastern part of the empire around 250 in the Common Era. This image gives the impression of eternal serenity, but her life was anything but serene. Join me today to meet Saint Helena of Constantinople here on the Armchair Traveler. My name is Judy, and I love travel, history, and finding out what makes people tick. If you're enjoying my content, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your help means more people will see my content. If you want more information, I have a WordPress blog, a page on Facebook, and a Twitter handle. The addresses are here or in the information block at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy your visit. 3rd century Rome was enormous, as you can see in this map. Barbarians were threatening not just the borders, but some unhappy provinces were trying to break away. Civil wars, power struggles, and economic disaster after disaster, including plagues and earthquakes, hit the country, tumbled down some of the cities and provinces, and knocked them literally to their knees. During this century, there were also at least 26 claimants to the title of emperor, including Roman generals who declared themselves to be emperor. Today we are meeting two Roman citizens, Helena and her future husband, Constantius Chlorus. They were both born in the middle of this century under circumstances that might seem quite different. She came from out in the sticks in what is now Turkey. He was born in an important imperial town in what is now Serbia. Nevertheless, they had a great deal in common. Each was a Roman citizen. Each one, by all accounts, was quite intelligent, and they were each very ambitious. Emperor Aurelian had sent soldiers out to put down the revolt in the east. Constantius was one of them. Sometime during his tour of duty in the east, he met Helena, they fell in love, made an agreement, possibly married, and lived and traveled for a long time as man and wife. Although we'll never know for certain what these two must have looked like, they clearly found one another quite attractive, and we do have some hints about the early relationship. Constantius arrived in this area around 270. One story has it that they met in a bazaar and noticed each one wore similar silver bracelets. Constantius was said to have seen her as his soulmate. The pair formed an arrangement and may have married. That part is uncertain because of the curiosities of Roman law, which I admit I do not understand. Around 272, they had moved to Nice, in modern-day Serbia, where his job was to hold the area for the empire. Constantius was a very good soldier and must have been an able administrator, with wide experience in the empire. This was an important post, managing part of the enormous Via Militaris, which stretched all the way to modern Constantinople. Remember that road because we'll come back to it at the end of our story. In around 274, Helena gave birth to their son, Constantine, known to us as Constantine the Great. By 280, Constantius was appointed governor of Dalmatia. The couple moved to Salona, the modern-day Solon, at around the same time. That town is located just north of Split, where Emperor Diocletian would eventually build his retirement villa. The struggle for control of the empire rumbled along, with generals taking sides when they were not promoting themselves. Eventually, it seems to have boiled down to two main competitors, a man named Carinus, who Constantius initially backed, and Diocletian, to whom Constantius later switched his support. In 295, Diocletian defeated most of his rivals. He had seen how difficult it was for the empire to manage just because it was so big. He decided to split it into two halves with a co-emperor for each. He took the eastern half and made his court in Nicomedia. He appointed a fellow general, a supporter, and an excellent soldier named Maximian to run the western empire, eventually moving the capital to present-day Milan. Constantius had backed the winner, but he wanted to strengthen his ties to the notoriously suspicious Diocletian. Marriage and adoption were important ways to do this in the empire. In 289, Constantius Chlorus set Helena aside to marry one of Maximian's daughters. A few years later, Diocletian made a further improvement in his plan, creating something he called the Tetrarchy, giving each one of the co-emperors a deputy, called a Caesar. Maximian promptly selected his new son-in-law, Constantius Chlorus, for the job. Constantius and Helena were both smart and ambitious, so it's no surprise that his son might turn out to be the same way. In 305, Diocletian and Maximian both retired as co-emperors. Maximian's new son-in-law and adopted son, Constantius, was promoted to the position of co-emperor, or Augustus. Divorcing it or setting aside Helena was mostly a political choice and mostly about Constantius and his ambition and desire to advance, not personal dislike or disagreement. His son Constantine had grown up and was part of Diocletian's inner court in Nicomedia. There are suggestions that Diocletian may have held on to Constantine as a way to keep his father in check, but the young man seemed promising, was well educated, grew to be a good soldier. When Diocletian retired, his deputy, Galerius, became the Eastern Emperor. This is where the trouble really began. Constantine apparently thought he was in line to become the Eastern deputy, but that job went to Galerius's nephew, a man named Maximius Daia. Constantius then asked Galerius to release his son to join him, as they were fighting on the frontier, but was refused. Constantine fled and joined his father just as Constantius was preparing to campaign in Britain. At the end of the fighting season, they retired to a winter camp at a place called Eberacon, which is modern-day York. Constantius died suddenly the following July. The soldiers, who as a whole had become accustomed to having a say in who the next emperor would be, and who seemed to like Constantine, acclaimed him as the new emperor. Much fighting remained before Constantine had complete control of the empire, but as of 312, he was in sufficiently strong position and in control of the city of Rome that he was able to bring Helena back to Rome from Nicomedia. The next year, Constantine officially ended the persecution of Christians, under the influence, I'm sure, of his mother, who had converted to Christianity perhaps during her long years in exile at Diocletian's court, or perhaps afterwards when she returned to Rome. It took another dozen years or so, until 324, for Constantine to gain full control of the empire. He promptly named his mother as Augusta, it means mother of the empire, in 325, giving her the status of an empress, quite a promotion from her previous status as, at best, a divorced wife and, as worst, a scorned concubine. 2 years later, around 326, Helena made a pilgrimage to Palestine. Helena and her group could have followed several routes going from Rome all the way to Jerusalem. The northern route, I think, would have taken her a bit out of her way, but would have led her back through Nice, where she had once lived so happily and had borne her son. The southern and older route, called the Via Egnatia, involved negotiating several mountain passes, but might have appealed to her as it was the road by which Paul traveled on his second missionary journey when he went between Philippi and Thessalonica. No matter what route, these imperial roads were not mere rutted paths. They were paved with proper drainage and around 20 feet wide. Roman engineers laid out their roads over the best possible routes, some of which are still in use today, as you can see in this photograph. Helena traveled fairly extensively in the East, and she retrieved and brought back relics related to the life and crucifixion of Christ. In my research, I've discovered that Helena is considered the patron saint of archaeologists. I think that title is well deserved. Helena is venerated throughout Christianity as a revered figure and a loyal servant of Christianity. But despite her actions, she played a huge role in converting her son to Christianity. She rebuilt churches destroyed by his predecessors. She commissioned new churches. She discovered what she truly believed were artifacts of Jesus' life. She was never recognized as a saint. The rules for canonization are quite strict. In the 21st century, I think, given her documented accomplishments and the veneration she receives to this day, this would be called at best a PR mistake. Helena's pilgrimage to Palestine was far more than just a sightseeing and souvenir hunting jaunt. She was one of the earliest pilgrims. Pilgrimages to the Holy Land were a religious act, but also encouraged cultural exchanges, boosted local economies along the way, encouraged construction of things like hostels, roads, bridges, and safe routes to accommodate the pilgrims, inspired the construction of grand cathedrals to hold the relics that they brought back, shrines, and churches. The rise of Islam made them far more dangerous and gave rise, at least indirectly, to the establishment of the Crusaders. Helena's pilgrimage had to have been hard and tiring, but she wasn't idle when she arrived. Tradition claims that she discovered Christ's true cross during her journey and brought back pieces of it, as well as pieces of the true nails. and an entire set of steps that are said to have led from Pontius Pilate's palace to ground level, down which a soon-to-be crucified Jesus was dragged. She also built the Church of the Nativity over the spot where Jesus was said to have been born in Bethlehem, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, revered as Golgotha, or the Hill of Calvary, where Jesus was crucified in Jerusalem, and the Church of the Ascension, which is said to house the impression of Jesus' footprint left when he ascended into heaven. Eventually, death comes to all of us, and Helena was no exception. This large piece of porphyry has been identified as her tomb. All the guidebooks say so, so does the Vatican Museum and the Human Guides, and yet, as you look at it, something seems out of whack here. We know she lived and died a devout servant of Christianity. The top or lid portion of the tomb features some reclining female figures, some angels, and some garlands. The body features carvings on all four sides showing us Roman cavalry, complete with horses and swords, along with kneeling imperial captives. Does this seem like the tomb of a Christian woman who should have been in line for sainthood? This is a huge unanswered question, at least for me. Thank you for joining me to meet this maker of history. Come back next time for another adventure with me here on The Armchair Traveler.